Shall we get started? Okay. Kia ora, good evening and welcome everyone. My name is Lauren Fong and it is my absolute pleasure to be moderating and interviewing these wonderful leaders in the music tech industry. So this is the CEO panel at Perfect Loudness. So thank you for having me and I'm super excited to be here tonight. So tonight we have, starting right next to me, Yang Lee, who is the CEO of Serato, one of the world's leading music technology companies. Serato is used by over 2 million people per year, including A-listers such as Will Smith, Drake, Disclosure, and Snoop Dogg. Yang grew up with a passion for computer games, which led him into the computer science field where he ran development teams at RoboForge, TVNZ, in New Zealand, and now Serato. Next, we have Morgan Donoghue. So Morgan is currently the managing director at InMusic. He has spent previously almost 30 years experience in the music industry. Notably, Morgan was previously EMI New Zealand Director of Marketing and also the Global Head of Music at Vodafone in London. He has worked alongside international acts like Coldplay, Robbie Williams and the Chemical Brothers. And lastly, Sam Gribben. So Sam is the founder and CEO of Melodics, the company changing the way people learn to play musical instruments. Melodics was founded back in 2014 and is now the official education supplier to over a dozen of the world's biggest keyboard, drum and DJ bands. And prior to this, Sam was the CEO of Serato for 10 years. So what all these three men have in common is that they've all spent some time at Serato. And I'm a DJ myself, so without Serato, I wouldn't be a DJ. So thank you to all three of you. A bit of background of me. So I'm also an electronic music producer and DJ under the name Lauren Jin. I've been in the local Aotearoa music scene for the last 6 years, and in the last 2 years I've been producing and making my own trap music. And during the day I work as an investment principal for Icehouse Ventures, where we invest into early stage tech startups. So I'm very passionate about music and tech, so having the two synergize and seeing that come to life and come to the forefront through these three leaders is really phenomenal. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight. So I thought we'd start off by, can you all please introduce yourself, what your company does, and give a brief overview of how you came to be in your respective roles. Yang, we can start with you on this end.
Hello. Hey, so I'm with Serato, as you know. So I grew up playing computer games. Followed that into university just because I like games. As it turns out, I'm quite good at it. So came out of uni, started a games company. I kind of got known for taking Air New Zealand online. So when it came to Serato needing a good dev manager, that was me. Sam found me and he hired me. And then later Sam decided to go off and do his own thing. So he left and I took over. And here I am.
And what does your company do?
Yeah, tell us more about Serato.
What do we do?
What does your company do, Young? What does Serato do, bro?
The
second half of the question.
We make the world's most used DJ software and the world's best beatmaker software and time-stretching audio software.
Cool. And I'm Morgan Donoghue, and InMusic, which I think is the question, right? What does your company do? Is that, yeah. So we've got 22 of the biggest musical instruments brands in the world, so I won't get them all, and I don't think anyone could ever remember all of them, but let's have a go. Denon DJ, Denon Professional, Marantz Professional, Rain, Newmark, Stanton, M Audio, Akai,
Alesis,
Sonovox,
Air.
Heaps. There's heaps of them, and no one can ever remember all of them. And so in New Zealand, we've got a team of about 50 developers making engine DJ software. So it's predominantly for Denon DJ and now Newmark as well. So that's what we're doing here. And we've got a lighting outfit that we had in Tauranga as well called Sound Switch, and that's now embedded in all of the Denon hardware as well.
Amazing.
How did you get into it?
You.
Yeah. Morgan, you have
I think we both were.
a wealth of experience you can share.
It was funny. We were is our mutual friend here that introduced us, that works upstairs. There's a guy called Jamie Cormack. He may join us a bit later, but I was at Vodafone New Zealand as the head of music in 2006, and he's like, "Oh, bro, come up the road. Well, there's this company. It's like the Google of New Zealand, but it's doing real mean music stuff." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, whatever." And then we went up and had noodles, and that was Sam. And so Sam and I, got to know each other a bit, and then I went off to London to be the global head of music. And just as I was kind of wanting to come home, Sam was like, "Oh, come on, we need a marketing guy. Come be the marketing guy." And we spent way too long negotiating this thing, but we did it, and we had 6 great years, and it was a ton of fun. So, yes, it was you.
That's not what I was fishing for.
Oh, sure.
I'm Sam. I'm the founder of Melodics, and our software helps people learn to play musical instruments. And there's an obvious common thread here. So I got into this very much a follow-up extension, kind of carry on from Serato. And I got into that by kind of coming up with the idea of being able to use vinyl to control a computer, but not having the technical skills to be able to do it, and then obsessing over it for years, and then finding out that people in my own hometown were actually doing it. And then
Where were you at the time, Sam?
I was in Amsterdam, and part of the reason I went there was because there was this other company that were doing it, and I tracked them down, and then they became, they sold to Stanton and became Native Instruments, and then they became our big competitors. And it's a long, convoluted story, but I met Steve and AJ, the founders, and I convinced them that I had lots of money, which I didn't, and I could invest, which they didn't want. But I just kind of pulled out all the stops, and I was like, "You got to give me a job. I have to work here. This is my dream." And they bought it, and then I gradually got to convince them to let me take over running the company, which was pretty cool.
And then how did you end up with Melodics after sort of transitioning from Serato?
Well, I wanted to do something in the space, and I could see that education was really taking off, but music wasn't kind of keeping up with that. And I knew all of the companies that were making all of the instruments, so I kind of went to them and said, "Hey, I've got this idea for something that will help your customers learn how to play, the products that you sell them better, and they'll get more from them. And will you help us go out and find them and reach them?" And they were all super supportive. And so that's kind of where it got started, was working with those instrument makers to make something that would help their customers. And also just seeing at that time products like Duolingo and Fitbit and Calm and Strava and all of these ones that were kind of, that had this gamification and feeding back your data and your progress and showing you, and that was working really well. And I thought, why is no one applying that to learning instruments? Because it seemed to me like a massive crossover with like language learning in particular. So that's where it all came from.
Fantastic, thank you all. So MusicTech isn't overly common here in Aotearoa. What are some of the defining factors that led your company to be successful, or where it is today, being in New Zealand?
I think mainly it's because everyone grew up here. We're a bunch of people who love living in New Zealand, but love solving problems. And I think it's as simple as you solve a problem and everyone wants to use it. And more these days, New Zealand's attracting more and more smart people who want to escape the crazy world.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say Serato created a lot of this for InMusic and Melodics a bit as well. If Steve and AJ hadn't created Serato, I don't think we would have this burgeoning scene that we do with 300 people right now. And
it's here because they were born here, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
as simple as that.
Just super smart off the dial computer science guys. That was the thing. And so that we've, as much as we're making our own software here, Young and I are a few times a week doing deals for Serato and Rain hardware or Newmark hardware as well. So it made sense for us to have an outpost, I guess. The real reason I think I'm here is that our owner works 24/7, and when the world is asleep, the only place that's awake is New Zealand. So if it gets to 10 o'clock on the east coast of the US and he's had a few wines and he wants to change the world in some way, which he often does, I'll get a call in the early afternoon, I'll do this. And I had that call today. So yeah, it was good.
Great example.
So yeah.
No, much the same. I mean, I think like that experience I talked about of kind of going to find where this magic, crazy idea of like computer music controlled by turntables was coming from took me to different places. And then I remember getting an email from someone saying, hey, I just met this guy at a barbecue and he's doing that thing that you've been talking about for ages and they're in Birkenhead. And I was like, what? And I was in Amsterdam trying to figure out, like, how do I pursue this dream? And it was right here. And I think it was just a lot that the founders never thought about living anywhere else because this was home.
So I think it's fair to say it's an advantage being here in New Zealand, and clearly there's a lot of talent coming out, which is fantastic, and Serato seemed like a foundational starting point for that. So my next question is, building a music tech company or any company has its challenges. What are some of the downsides that your companies have experienced, and how have you overcome them? Sam, we can start at your
Yeah,
end.
actually, I might just link this to the last question. I don't know. I don't think it is an advantage being in New Zealand, but I think part of the point is it's not a disadvantage. And I mean, no, to your point, Young, we are attracting more and more talent here because it's a nice place to live, but that's a fairly recent thing. I think part of starting another company was to try and show and to prove to myself that it could be done again and it could be done from here and we could take it international, because I think that's something that we want to try and encourage lots and lots of companies to do. And the pandemic has really shifted things and it's kind of reduced that disadvantage of being so remote. Because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, we would do these calls and people were like, oh, this is so weird doing everything over Zoom. We're not used to this. And you have to like, do things at odd hours and do Zoom all the time. We're like, yeah, this is how I've been doing business for the last 10 years. You know, so
Since it was called Skype.
Yeah, Skype. We used to Skype. So, yeah, I think part of the challenge has been being remote, but I'm a big believer in that challenge of showing that it can be done and helping to kind of pave the way a little bit for other New Zealand tech companies to do it from here. There's no reason why we can't have like a globally significant tech scene here.
Yeah, you just have to give it a go, even though you might not have done it and there might not have been people here with experience. There's that thing where people here haven't done it because we don't have an industry, but actually the other side of it is New Zealand are great creative problem solvers. It's that number 8 wire thing, right? Can it be done? Oh, I don't know. Shall I do it? Yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
I took us all off the question though.
So
What are
were
the-
there any particular downsides that your company has gone through and how you overcame them and came out the other side?
Lots. I mean, I think, you know, it's such a cliche, the startup up and down and up and down and up and down. But it's really just like every time I think that we're like, yeah, we cracked it, we're away, we're going, I have to check myself because sure enough, it's going to be like, and swing the other way.
That's startups for you.
Yeah, it is a bit. But then you just got to believe because it often swings the other way. So challenges, well, right now it's a kind of crazy time. Consumer behavior is changing. Morgan's company makes hardware, but Young and our companies don't actually make hardware ourselves, but because we all work with hardware, supply chains and chip shortages, it's all affecting us. And it's a tricky time now. Challenges in the past, startup, my biggest job always is to make sure we've got enough money to pay salary and just always keeping, raising money and keeping the cash coming in. It's just that normal startup grind.
How about you, Morgan?
My biggest challenge when we started this was the fact that I got 5 days notice that the owner of the company was coming down and he wanted to start up a development shop in New Zealand, and I better have a few people for him to interview at the weekend. And so, yeah, that was definitely challenging. I'd got back, I think, on a Sunday from being in America for a couple of weeks with him, and then he called the next day and was like, by Friday you better have an office, and I was like, oh, and so we moved in the Iron Bank, which was available, and we interviewed 20 people that weekend, and we employed 10 of them, and most of those ones are still our foundation people. I'd say over the pandemic it's been hard to find people because there haven't been more people coming in from overseas. We've just had someone transfer from our UK office, and that was one of the things that Jack said on the call today. The culture in Music New Zealand is very different to the rest of the world, and this guy was like, oh my God, it's so amazing, rah, rah, rah. Jack's like, look, we can't have it that everyone wants to move to New Zealand. I'm like, yeah, okay, Sam, just chill, not you, the other guy, yeah. So yeah, it's people's a big one, and then focusing on culture and getting that really right, that's something that when I started this up, I was like, culture's got to come first, and I would hope that the culture we have is really first class. That's something that's really important to me. And trying to employ female developers, which is really, really hard. Yeah, that's something we're not good at, but we try really hard and we fail.
I'm going to echo Sam's, actually. It's his thing about whether you can pay salaries. I think the sheer uncertainty of growing a company is the hard thing. How many units will you sell? Well, I don't know. Will you have money to pay salaries? No, I don't know. Can you build this? I don't know. And I think it's not that people who run companies work harder or they're smarter or anything. It's that they can handle the sheer uncertainty and the setbacks and have the grit to keep going. That's the hard bit.
I love that. And so, on a more positive note, what is something that you're most proud of today with your companies? I mean, they're all very well known and you've all achieved a lot, but can you just think of one thing that you're really proud of? Yeah. And you can start.
Yeah, my one is quite personal, actually. It was the first couple of weeks I started at Serato. I grew up listening to the Beastie Boys, and I met Mixmaster Mike, and to have him actually care what I had to say, which is mind-blowing, eh? It was like, hello,
Amazing.
I'm young, blah, blah, blah. And then he was listening to me, and it was such a buzzy thing for me that it will always stick in my mind.
Wow.
So I just made my first trip overseas for 3 years a couple of weeks ago. And I was at a trade show, and I was wearing a Melodics T-shirt, and I had more than one person come up to me and say, oh, do you work at Melodics? Oh, I use it every day. It's great. It's really, really helped me. And, you know, you get customer testimonials, but for someone to hit you up because you're wearing the T-shirt with the logo and say it to your face, it's kind of like, that's pretty cool. It's like the ultimate test. You can always get people to say nice things, but when someone just excitedly comes up and offers it, it's pretty cool.
It's a pretty special moment. Morgan?
Yeah, and mine's just creating in the last 3 years this 50-person dev shop with a great team and culture, and we just bought an office in Mini Street, which was quite a buzz. So I think we're here for a while yet. So yeah, it's cool.
Congratulations to all three of you. So I'd like to know, where do you think the future of music tech is heading in New Zealand? I mean, you may all have different perspectives on this. You kind of all have origins that started at Serato, but I'd be interested to know, what the future looks like.
Well, I think there's hopefully this effect that you see kind of in tech in general, where there are these pioneers, like I think in New Zealand it was kind of Trade Me and a few others, and they're successful, and out of that come these other companies like Vend and this next kind of generation, and then they're successful, and then out of that, you know, so we're like, I consider my company to be in that kind of second wave, and there's already a few other music tech companies that are like 1 or 2 people, and if they become successful, then it kind of will keep going, and we can collectively build a name for ourselves and take on Berlin and Stockholm, which are kind of Berlin's probably the big one for music tech. We're like, yeah, we can take them on, we can do it. But I think that by showing that there are careers and bringing people in, we can build something that's bigger than the sum of the parts and build a real scene here.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I'll keep going down that. So Algonaut's a nice company on K Road as well. 1.5 staff, I think, now, and doing real good stuff in music production. And I hope that from InMusic and from these other companies, we get a real next wave of people coming through in music and tech. And that, I guess, the 3 companies have taught them how to do software properly, you know, understanding the processes and then delivering it and delivering great products to market that can benefit everyone.
Because there's nothing special about the companies, right? Everyone works hard.
I wouldn't go that far.
Everyone works hard, but you know, you can work hard in the right place in the right time. And these days, the internet has made the world really small. You know, you can solve a problem here, and then there's a lot of people in the world to buy that problem-solving thing that you've just come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys have been doing it 20 plus years now. It's not a fluke, right?
Oh, it's not a fluke, but other people can do it. You know.
But they haven't done it as well as you guys.
No, I think what he's trying to say is other local people can do it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry,
yeah.
I missed. Yeah, okay,
I mean, you guys can do it.
Yeah. Everyone should build DJ software.
But, you know, like some of the conversations I have with people on my team, like that they want to start a company one day or do their own thing. And I think that's awesome. And it's really just like, okay, well, you know, how can we help you learn and give you the skills that you need to do your own thing? Because that's part of the dream, really, is to spin off other things and then help them along and broaden it out beyond just music tech. And how do we kind of use the networks that we've built and the connections that we've built to lay down a bit of a path for other Kiwi tech companies.
Give it a go when you're young, because you've got nothing to lose, eh? You've literally got nothing to lose.
Yeah, totally.
That leads nicely into my next question, which some of you kind of already answered, which was, you know, building awareness in this space is really important. So what are some tangible things that we can do to attract people to the space? You know, why should someone come and work for Melodics or work for Serato, both local and overseas talent?
More of these. Thanks, Renato.
Including, this tonight.
No, for real. And I think it starts with a kind of broader question of how do we get more people into tech? And then, although I think music tech is a really cool, I mean, it is cool. It's got a kind of a cool appeal, and it's a good way to show people who might not really consider tech that it's not just weighing cows. Shout out to the cow weighers.
Halter.
Yep.
Halter.
Or accounting software or something like that. You know, like there is some, it's a lot more tangible. Someone might use one of our products and then see that it's made locally, and we try to open our doors and try and bring people in. Sometimes I'd like to do more of it. And then they can see what's on the inside, meet some of the team. The panel here yesterday with some of the people from our music team was awesome, just kind of showing like how you can get into this. So be open, like have open doors, and we need to make an effort to get out of the community and talk to people and be available and just kind of demystify it a little bit.
I love that, and I think that really applies to the entire tech sector in New Zealand. Yeah, all those things.
And it's not just programmers, eh? There's so much more in tech. It's not just hardcore geeks. It's like there's testers and project managers and musicians and all sorts of everything from HR to finance.
Yep.
Just jump into the tech sector.
That was something that came out yesterday on the panel was Crystal, one of the musician teachers in our team, was saying, she was really apprehensive about getting into it because she didn't know how to program. And it's actually something I've heard quite a few times, people saying, but I can't get into tech because I don't know how to program. And that's a very small slice of it. There's a whole lot of other careers.
You just have to be comfortable with tech, right? You don't have to be a hardcore programmer, but you have to be comfortable and fluid and adventurous.
I'm probably the example of that, right? You guys both went to university, did engineering and computer science. I did not.
And so finally, for those perhaps in the audience who are interested in getting into this space, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's interested in, entering the music tech?
Are they starting their own company, or are they trying to join one of these?
Both,
Right.
Being an entrepreneur and also an operator.
I think I'm just going to rip off yesterday's panel because they had really, really good advice, which was, I'm going to slightly my own spin on it. It's not a huge scene. It's not a massive community. It's not that hard to meet any of us, or actually all of us. So get out there and start meeting people, start talking. You probably will get a few no's before you get a yes, so be persistent and try different things. And you know, a lot of the people that we hire, we've often like had some sort of relationship with for several years in some form before it's like, oh, actually, no, you know what, we do have something that would be just right for you. So don't be afraid to start getting in there. It's not like you've got one shot. It's not like what's it, 8 Mile kind of.
Eminem, yeah.
It's not like that at all. You have plenty of opportunities, and you build it up slowly and meet people and just kind of find the space that might work for you.
And if you wanted to start the next Melodics, how would you do that?
Come talk to me. I'll help you. Talk to lots of people. Okay, so I'm saying the same thing, but it's quite different. Talk to lots of people about your idea. This is one thing I talk to a lot of kind of first-time founders about, particularly in New Zealand, where I think we have a mentality of like, the kind of flip side of the number 8 wire, I think, is that you go out to your back shed and you invent something and it's got to be top secret and then it's going to change the world. And it's just not like that at all. And you have to talk to a lot of people about your idea and find out which part of it are they getting, which part of it are they not getting, what's exciting people. Because most of the time it won't be the thing that you think it is that is exciting about your idea. It's actually some other variation of it. And you have to be willing to kind of change it and flip it around. You know, like, we kind of flipped Melodics around quite a few times in the early days after talking to lots of artists and teachers, and it ended up being something quite different to what I thought it would be.
But if you do go out back and build a thing, that's good practice, and suddenly you've got something to talk to people about, and you'll get noticed. And so, you know, either of those two are...
Yeah.
And if you're a musician and into computer science and there's something that's really annoying you and you want to solve the problem, and you can, then do that. And I think that's how Serato really got founded, was Steve West was learning to play bass guitar and wanted to be able to slow it down or speed it up so he could play along with it, and he wanted to, it just was always ending up being the chipmunk. So he's like, oh, write a bloody computer software program, and then 20 years later that's still the best pitch shifting, time stretching algorithm in the world.
I think the thing about like the building it and doing it is don't keep it secret. That's my main message. Is don't try and... The chances of someone else being like, you know what, that's a great idea, and I'm just at a turning point in my life, and I'm looking for a great idea like that one to take and turn into a company, is very unlikely.
It's more valuable to you as a way to get in to talk to people, eh? So build a thing that will get you noticed, get in, talk to lots of people.
Yeah. As someone that works with like hundreds of startups, no one's going to steal your idea. If anything, we will help navigate you to sort of, as you mentioned, Melodics took quite a few pivots until you found that customer pain point and really narrowed it down and refined it. So I think that's what you can really do with a startup, and just keep doing that until you've refined and kind of mapped out the roadmap of where the startup's going to take you. And I guess joining the space, well, you've all given exceptional reasons as to why you should. Yeah. So we're just going to finish off with a fun little rapid fire round of questions, so just keep them quite brief, the responses. So the first one is, who is your biggest inspiration? We'll start with you, Young. Go in this end.
I'm going to go cheesy, my mum. Hard-nosed businesswoman, she was.
Morgan?
Oh, wow, jeez. Sorry, I know you said be quick. I think it was my boss when I was at EMI, a guy called Chris Caddick. He was a great mentor for me as a young fellow growing up, and it was a great 10 years at EMI.
Nice. Sam?
I'm going to say my first boss out of uni, because it's kind of a scary thing leaving university and getting a job and thinking that it's this whole other thing. And actually, it's not really. And I had a very, very supportive, encouraging person who made me feel like I could actually do the job.
Yeah.
So shout outs to him.
Okay, next up. So amongst your very busy lives, what's your best relaxing self-care practice? You can start on your end, Sam.
This sounds manufactured, but playing music with my friends. It's true. I think there are people in this room who can vouch for me that that's my favourite thing to do. And if you go to the Melodics office, you'll see large amounts of floor space dedicated to jamming.
Yeah, Mine for the last 5 years has been walking until I got COVID, and then I haven't really walked that much, but I had 5 years, and it was interesting. When I left Serato, I decided I was going to do 100 kilometres a month, and I did for 5 years, right up until the COVID, and then I will get back into it, and as part of that, I started a little walking charity called Roadie for Roadies.
Amazing. Actually, I know yours is walking because every time I call you, you're always walking. Yeah.
Was, yeah. It's been a fun 6 weeks since the COVID.
Yeah.
I'm really good at sleeping, eh?
That's my best self-care practice too. That's really important.
Even
Yeah.
so often people ask me, what keeps you up at night? Oh, I'm pretty
Nothing.
good at sleeping, eh?
Cool. And last question before we move on to Q&A is, who is your favourite go-to artist that you could jam all day?
My favourite artist at the moment is Gribben. Gribben? I don't know quite how to say it.
Yep.
And I'm trying to convince a couple of people at work to start a Gribben covers band.
I've really struggled to move past 90s hip hop, if I'm honest, and he knows that. Yeah. Look, Tropical Quest will, I think, ever be my favourite.
Yeah, I'm all too. Massive Attack all the time, I reckon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Well, before we open up to the floor, can we please give a huge round of applause to these incredible leaders in the MusicTech scene? Right, so I'd love to open to the floor for questions right over here. Yes.
Just in terms of locally, what would you like to see improve to do with either government or infrastructure? What's something that's like maybe a downside locally that could be improved, that you would like to see improved to help your businesses, your tech, music tech, or the tech sector, infrastructure, government?
Ban banks from making apps.
Did everyone hear that? Do you want to repeat the question, Morgan?
Right.
Yeah.
So what is there anything that government locally or centrally could do to make our businesses better?
Just anything in general
Yeah.
in New Zealand could improve.
Yeah.
Whether it's government or not.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said before, staffing has been an issue, and we've got a kind of a development team down at Serato as well, and even when Serato were getting the people for that was hard for you to get those on board, and at the start of the year. So we've we've now, the way we got the person in from the UK was we've joined a special thing where we can now bring people in from overseas now that the borders have opened up, but it really has been a lack of talent. If we could put out more engineers, more testers, more QA, the whole thing. I mean, most of our QA are quality assurance engineers, so testers we call them, are musicians or DJs, and so they're perfect for what we're doing because it's testing all day long.
Yeah, and if you're talking about government, I reckon you've got to start with the kids. The problem is teachers tell kids what they know, which is, be a doctor or a lawyer or a policeman. Kids need to know from like 13, because that's when you start choosing what you want to do, that you have these sorts of careers. And it's not accounting software, it's not dudes scrolling text in the basement. You can actually make music software and you can work for Google and you can, but they just don't know that when they're 13.
Same.
Interesting.
But Melodics being free in schools in New Zealand probably helps.
Thanks for the plug, Morgan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very good for your education, isn't it? Yep.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Serato people themselves, how much worse are MP3s compared to waves for DJs?
Okay. How much worse are MP3s?
I just get all my
waves?
stuff off YouTube rips.
Depends if you're on the internet, eh? The internet's going to squish it for you anyway. I can't tell.
No, I'm not much of a purist. So I'm the wrong person. We're actually the wrong people to ask. I think there's more people in the back rows that could answer that question than.
Cool.
I've got a question.
Yes.
For the three of you guys, without giving away anything in terms of the stuff that you're working on, but what excites you most in the music tech space, like globally at the moment? Like, what are the new trends that you're pumped about? What are the things you see coming down the track that you think will be really exciting, either for your own products or just generally in the scene? What's the crystal ball look like?
There is actually, there's been a lot of talk about AI in music, and it's but there's some stuff starting to come out that's actually pretty, like a little taste of how cool it'll be.
Yeah, I'm going to come out swinging for that one, because I know AI is a buzzword, and most people just use it as a buzzword, but I've seen it crack a lot of things that people have been trying to do with maths for years and years. I reckon it's not going to, I don't reckon the making music's going to be any good, but it's going to solve a lot of tools and a lot of things that have been too hard in the music space for ages. You know, I think machine learning is going to come through and just fix all the hard things.
I got another one. There's for years and years and years, a lot of companies have been trying to crack like making music more accessible and making it like making it less complicated. Like the main tools for making music are still really, really hard to learn. And I saw one recently from Splice. Have you seen the? Is it called Koso?
Yep.
Koso or something? Yep. And it's like, okay, this is actually quite fun to use and quite humbling because it's way better than the beats I make, and I spent about 5 seconds doing it. But it's actually pretty cool. And I think the way things are going, where I don't know, like 10 years ago, if you'd asked me if like millions of people around the world would be cutting videos to post online, I know video editing is quite a specialized thing. You know, it's quite hard to do, and I think that comeuppance will happen with music a little bit. And that's not to say that like people won't still make beautiful films that have video editing as part of the art, and people will make amazing music, but there will be this layer of when you're making your videos for TikTok or whatever it is, you can make something original to go with it. And I think that is actually coming after years and years and years of people trying and failing.
Yeah, because it's too hard right now, right? So you can get rid of the technicalities. At the moment, you almost need to know like audio engineering and cables and the MP3 format, and more, if we can remove all of that and people can get to actually making music. I want to know how a computer works. I want to make music. I want to know how all these things plug together. I want to make music. I think that's coming.
Yeah, I'm excited about some stuff that these guys individually are working on.
Anything you can share?
No.
Oh, any other questions, or we can wrap it up there? Yeah.
Just following up on Morgan's comment around how hard it is to attract women into the space. And I mean, we had an all-woman panel yesterday, which was fantastic. Thanks, Sam. But what are you guys doing to try and, encourage diversity? Because we all know that having diversity within your staff is going to make a better company.
Yeah.
I love that question. You know that I'm very passionate about this
Yes,
personally.
yes. And so we look. I think for a lot of it, it's around engineers. I think there's lots more female DJs coming through, so that's great for the testing and stuff. So that's great. But more female engineers at school, like Young was saying, at 13, so that they know that it's a cool career path to come.
There's a lot more now.
Not enough.
There's not enough as a woman DJ in the scene. No way. Yeah. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think. It is quite hard, especially. I mean, I think your challenge is hard because it's mostly engineering, and I think it is hard in that area. But it's about providing an environment or creating an environment where it is kind of normal and it's not seen as such a unusual thing. I think it's kind of for any minority group, if you come into an environment where it's like, well, there's no people like me here, then it's much harder to get in. So, I don't know, this is not really a solution as much as you need to stay really on top of it, otherwise you can kind of get into this zone where you look around and it's like, to quote a friend of ours, I went into the office, it smells like boys in there, you know? And it's like, well, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
But I think I think what you're saying is it's very important in the sense that you could signal, but then when someone starts with you, it's too hard. So you have to fix structurally, internally first, and then you hire people in, and then you help them be successful.
Yeah. So, thank you. That's a much better way of putting it.
I kind of want to echo that because in my role, I help raise money for women founders, specifically in New Zealand, all women founders in tech. And so I see a lot of patterns coming through and a lot of challenges that they face. So do you think there are any challenges right now posed that prevent or inhibit, a woman entering the industry? And is there something that your firms are doing specifically to break down those barriers?
I mean, yeah, there are a ton of challenges. I think a lot of it is about making the space safe for people. And for me, as a middle-aged white dude, not really understanding what that actually meant, and then once I understood what that meant, not understanding what was and what wasn't safe, and so it's a bit of an education you have to go on yourself to be like, oh, okay, I see how that affects other people differently from me, and doing that work so that, like you say, when people do come in, it's like, oh, this place feels different.
Yeah. So I've got kind of like 3 parts to it. I think for us it started with signalling. So we support things like Girl Boss and stuff. So we're going, come work with us, that's cool. And then the next thing is internal role models. So we've got some very senior people who are females, our head of insights is our head of designers.
It's really important.
And then next after that, you just go, then structurally, where do you take the risk? And it's easier to hire juniors and stuff, just probability-wise. So you bring them in with the role models, and then that's how you grow a successful environment. We've had a success.
I totally agree, and I think it's important to have women in seniority so that they know there's a trajectory in their career to be in those positions where they can
because it's
got
to be real, and they need to know that they're respected, but not because they're here because they're female, but there is an actual place if you can get there and stand your own.
So in a way, I think you do have to start top down a little bit.
Cool. Is there another question from the audience? Maybe.
I was just going to ask about, have you guys dabbled in Web3 and blockchain, and just keen to hear your thoughts in the music world, because there's so many.
I'm an enthusiast, but I haven't been able to link the two together yet. I'm a crypto enthusiast and a music professional. One day they will.
I mean, I don't know much about Web3. I'm a real noob in that area, but I do have this strong sense that it is going to overlap with music in a big way. And I'm already, years behind by only just thinking about that now and not trying things and doing things. And I just think that the way that the creator economy is going and how many more people are creating their music and the role of record labels within that and the ability to engage your fans directly and create work with your fans directly, there's so much in that. And I think a lot of people are going to take a lot of risks and try a lot of stuff, and there'll be a few things that just become the new way.
Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So thank you so much to Sam, Morgan and Young for your time. Just incredible insights and knowledge that we're all so lucky to hear. Even me sitting in this seat, I feel very privileged. So thank you for that. Thanks to Jonah for having this event and putting this on. Thank you to Neck of the Woods. It's just fantastic, and so glad that we can have such an enriching knowledge sharing session tonight. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it and have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you.